news came out this week from CNBC that home flippers are seeing their lowest returns in 8 years as costs rise. And so real estate investors, I think, know that the space has gotten more competitive. There are national Wall Street billion-dollar hedge funds buying homes. There are people like us that are offering people a local alternative to say, hey, look, we can also match or beat those offers. We can buy your house too, or we can also show you what you're leaving on the table if you do sell it to us. But it's gotten more expensive. I think the biggest part of the home flipping that has gotten more expensive is I think customers have gotten more educated. I think they're more knowledgeable, more savvy about values. I think another big reason, and I think you guys can both attest to this, is contractors. The contracting space right now, there's a labor shortage.
Yeah.
So what happens when you have a shortage of something?
Prices go up.
Prices go up.
Yep.
Yep. So Robert, you remember you did some renovations on your house. How fun was that?
Oh yeah, I've done. Well, here's the thing.
I kind of it was like stumbling. Oh no!
Well, here's the thing, because I'm thinking about two things that you said. So this is actually the third house that we've been renovating. So the first two homes were much smaller, and much easier to renovate, and also the time was different. We're talking about 2010 was the last house I did. So. A lot more contractors were out there and looking for work, and you could really bargain.
You can negotiate.
So now, not only do I have a bigger house, but there's also a construction shortage and a contractor shortage.
So labor is more expensive.
And they only want to do it for a premium. So something that cost me, a roof. So I just got a quote for a roof. I guarantee you 10 years ago, I would have been quoted $10,000 for my roof. Well, now I was quoted $20,000 for my roof.
Yep.
And I definitely know supplies, it's gotten more expensive to do these things.
Sure.
But we're not
Double.
talking about double.
Yeah. And that's the truth. I mean, so it's hard to find contractors that are reasonable. Contractors have gotten more expensive. They understand there's a shortage, so they charge more. I think the second part of the construction costs going up is builders. There's so much new construction activity that you're competing with the builders to try and get somebody to do a renovation on your house. And let's face it, they would much rather go out and work for some corporate entity that they can kind of come and go, and it's just easier for them to have that book of business versus kind of doing one-off stuff. So some of the best contractors are working and doing most of their work for builders.
And we're not talking just about residential for a contractor.
Oh yeah,
shortage.
construction.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
In Central Florida, there's commercial, there's multifamily, there's condo, there's townhome. I mean, even the theme park business. So every single thing, the hotel business, everything we have in Central Florida right now is massively expanding and using up a very small supply of people that we have to work. So everything's more expensive.
I think another big thing about the softening of the flipping market that that kind of goes unnoticed, I think, is probably that there's a lot of competition in the space. So now they're kind of, you've got all these hedge funds kind of competing against each other, which is driving those margins down. And you've got construction costs that have gone up clearly. And I think, the other, I think in general, there are other parts of the cost that have gone up. So things like holding costs, utilities, all the things that an investor has to do to hold that property have gotten more expensive. So their margins just keep compressing and compressing and compressing.
And there's less supply, so there's less distressed sales than in the past. And again, it goes back to supply and demand.
Well, if I have a house that is definitely a flipped home and we end up not purchasing it, we put it on the market, and it's, let's just say, $100,000. Because the supply is less, there's a massive amount of competition for that, and I guarantee you I get multiple offers, and I guarantee you I go above $100,000. So maybe we sell it for 105, 110. Years ago, that would have sold for probably right at 100 or less. So right there, you've ate up about $10,000 in costs. The work's definitely more expensive. The contractors are more expensive, but also because there's a shortage, you're holding the property for longer because the work's taking longer. So then you have an extra month or two of holding costs. So everywhere along the way, you've eaten into it, and you end up getting less for it. So
it's interesting because you see, like, I think we talked about this many times with the reality TV shows, right? You've got the Property Brothers, you've got, I know them, but most of them, I don't really watch it anymore. You've got Joanne and, I don't remember the other guy's name. I don't remember many of the shows. Mostly because I can't watch them. It's what I do for a living, so it's like I can't sit down and watch this because I know how staged and fake it is. But nonetheless, it makes people think that it's like sunshine and rainbows and the easiest thing ever. I mean, they do. They don't show you the real facts. They make it look very glamorous.
They usually have one problem with the flip.
Yeah, one staged problem. It's very easy to overcome. In reality, they had like 37 problems on that flip. They had permits not filed. They had people not show up for work. They had the construction take longer.
Little pet peeve is the end when they go over the cost and they're like, they bought it for this, they put this much into it, and this is what they sold it for. So they made this much profit, and you're like, what about the cost, the closing costs? What about
was there a commission? Was there repairs? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, yeah. They make it really like. They're like, it's like real estate flipping for dummies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like literally like, there's a much more complicated calculation for how they made money on a house. It isn't a 3-line piece of paper. But the reality shows have made it, challenging for, people because they have this misperception. But it's also glorified it to bring more people into it. And guess what? It's brought a lot of people into it that have no business being in it, that are inexperienced, that don't have money, that are using crazy high hard money loans, that do a bad job, that don't make money, that watch TV and thought they could go out and do it. And again, I think real estate has always been glorified. I mean, heck, I remember watching Carlton Sheets or No Money Down way back in the day, right? So there's plenty of that's always happened, but I feel like it is definitely more investors going into the space because of how glamorous and exciting and all that it looks, and so what happens is you get a lot of amateurs into the business that don't go through the proper education and don't learn how to do it, that don't have the right people helping them do it, and then it drives those numbers down and people say, oh, home flippers aren't making a profit. But I'd be willing to bet that if they took the stats and they said, okay, let's take the top 50% of people that flip the most amount of homes, I bet money they're not seeing as much of a compression on their numbers. Again, are they seeing some? Yes. But anytime you talk about average statistics, it's spread out over a lot of people. The bottom people, all the new people that are getting into it, that are making a lot of mistakes, are seeing huge compression of margin. And top people probably aren't seeing it as much because they have scale, they have volume, they can buy labor at a discount because they're doing so much. There's things that they can do to kind of help, help bridge that gap. But home flipping it's slowing down. There's no question it is. And it's interesting because I know home flipping is slowing down when I'm watching my Facebook feed and like half the people I know are posting comments about wanting to find someone to help them flip real estate. They want to find somebody to loan them money. Right. They want to find, it's like, dude, like stand in line. You missed it. Like you needed to start this a couple years ago. And again, some of them will go out and be successful. I'm not trying to hate on anybody wanting to improve themselves. It's just that there are a lot of people doing it right now. And if they'd have done it a couple of years ago, they'd have had a lot more. If they'd have got in a couple of years ago, they'd have had a lot more success.